great experience.
And that came out to, really good critical acclaim as well.
It did, but it did. It's no one's ever heard of me, of course, but but it did have some wonderful reviews, and that
Yeah.
was fantastic. It's a little bit different than most of the work you really see out there, is what I'm told.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I know that collections and anthology single author stuff is a lot harder to get out there. And even when you do, there's normally, there can be peaks and flows in terms of the quality of the stories. Most authors put a little bit of filler into anthologies, but yours, no matter if they were very short, because you did have some microfiction in there, right up to
Yes.
flash and short stories, there didn't really seem to be filler. You had a really good collection there. And
Thank you.
obviously that's your talent from the writing, but obviously with Ken helping to put it together, it was a good collaboration there.
Yeah, it was. He's ruthless. He's a ruthless man. He'll be like, "No, the story." Mm.
Yeah, but now you've
And
got a dagger.
yes, no, I have
Oh
a
yeah.
dagger.
Oh, he should watch out.
He's afraid of me. But I think you and I were talking about earlier, because I know you're putting something together too, and we were talking about putting your stories together in like musical form, like um, put them together like you're putting together a musical album, so that
Yeah.
each story leads to the next and that sort of
Yeah.
thing. And he's the one that suggested that to me. He's like, put it together like you're putting together a music CD, so that the stories, flow. Because I was all like, how do you put them all in one book?
Well,
What goes first? Ah!
I kind of nearly a few weeks ago decided just to put all the titles in a hat and choose them out randomly. It
You
doesn't
know
quite
what?
work,
No.
but the music bit does work because you need some of that lulls and peaks and troughs. It's almost, I find the collection to be almost like a novel. You do need the kind of the start, the middle, and the end, and the cliffhangers, and the just something to get your blood boiling a little bit, and then to relax a little bit. Um,
It's exactly, that's true. It's exactly, blah, 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 blah. It's exactly like a novel. But I mean, that's it. You're still telling a story. They're small stories, in this larger collection, but I mean, there's still that flow. Exactly.
mhm.
You do need that. So no drawing out a hat. You're not allowed.
Yeah,
You have to
hey.
send it to me first. I'll put it together before you do that. So
I was nearly doing that last week. My hair was being pulled out.
it's it's tougher than you think.
Yeah,
It's
because
harder than you think. There's a grace to it that you don't really realize is there. You have to put it together in the right way, or it's going to fall flat.
yeah, and actually that's a good segue because it's something that you obviously have had to experience recently. It's much different just writing the stories. Writing a short story is fun. You get the idea, you sit down, you write, you edit, and then it's finished. But obviously with the novella, Lulu, I am not pronouncing this title. It's never going to happen.
Oh, it will.
But that was
I know
obviously,
it will.
it's a longer short story or a short novel, whichever way you want to call it. But did you kind of how did you find, sorry, the change from short stories to the novella?
It went much more seamlessly than I was afraid it was going to be. I knew that I wanted to write a novella. I'd had the title for a couple of years because I just found it one day, and I was like, this is the title of what's going to be fantastic one day. And it just stuck with me once I thought of it.
I just
And
love the fact that your mind works in such a way that you have a 300-word title. No,
I
it's not
know it's
quite that,
almost
but
longer than the piece.
all of my stories have normally got one-word titles because I'm lazy. You go with a novel for the title. No wonder it
and
stuck
then
with you.
and then my novel was named Nameless.
I know. But okay,
I'm like,
we're going to go back
I'm
to
done.
Lulu in a second. But did you call it Nameless almost by accident because you didn't have a name for it at the start? Is that true?
That is exactly what happened. Yes.
I
That
like
is
that.
exactly what happened. But then I realized, I was like, oh my goodness, this is unintentionally brilliant because it's all about names and it encapsulates the novel. But I was just like, I can't call it the demon novel all the time. I've gotta. So I'm like, Nameless, the nameless novel, Nameless. And then I was like, oh, it
If you want to
the stars aligned.
keep it easy, and the next one could be called Nameless, the Darkness Trots Along. And
Yeah,
then Nameless, the Darkness Ends.
What we decided is going to be Nameless. What the heck is a bone angel? And then
Yeah, you are going to have to explain that at some point, aren't you? Like in book two,
and book
which
3 will be like, this is a bone angel.
and book
Yeah.
two's ready next week. Did you say?
In your dreams, But I do have some fantastic scenes. So thank you for being a cheerleader for it.
Ah, that's okay. But
I'm afraid to disappoint you.
it is something that, in fact, no. We'll go back to Nameless in a second because Lulu. I mean, it won the Stabby Award. It's got some very weird characters in it as well, which you are kind of becoming known for doing. So
Yeah.
if you want, tell us a bit about that again. If you want to tell us the whole title, go for it.
I would love to. I would like you to to repeat behind me,
Okay.
Apocalyptic Montessa
Apocalyptic Montessa
and Nuclear Lulu,
and Nuclear Lulu.
A Tale of Atomic
A
Love.
Tale of Atomic Love.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah,
Yes,
I won't be able to
that's
say it in
it.
one go on my own. It's
Well,
impossible.
it's tough. I've botched it on live interviews before. I'm like, this book that I wrote. Anyway, yeah, it's a tale about these two people that have kind of otherworldly abilities. There's Montessa. She's a stripper. She's, down on her luck, almost a stereotypical character, but she's not. She has kind of a vibrancy to her that is very ground down. And she can manipulate the wind, can read Lulu's thoughts. There's a serial killer driving a big rig named Lou, and he abducts her and takes her into his truck because he's going to kill her. And that's what he does. He's, a serial killer, and he'd been watching her for a while. And eventually they figure out that there's something special, that the two of them together create something special and almost magical. And then they kind of join forces and try and draw the best out of each other, but they go about it in kind of the wrong way. Um, but there's so much love there. They go on a serial killing spree. Um,
As you
but
do.
yeah, as
It's a
you do on
great
a
first
first
date,
date.
actually.
It's exciting. It's memorable. Yeah. But I still think they managed to be sympathetic characters, even though they're obviously dark and obviously
Yeah.
doing the wrong thing. But there's such a kindness to them towards each other and just such a brokenness that they're trying so hard to fix. I think they're quite endearing, actually. These
And
sweet little serial killers.
obviously, we can't. I'm not going to spoil anything about it because people do need to read it and discover it for themselves. But you left it open at the end. In my opinion, it's open that it doesn't have to be the end of it.
You've been talking to my publisher, haven't you?
I haven't, but I can do if you want. Tim.
Yeah, he's like, I really want you to think about a sequel. And I'm like, well, it kind of wrapped up in a nice little manner.
It
And he's like,
didn't. No, it didn't. You know it
I
didn't.
know
You left
you
it on
and
purpose.
Joe and Jay just get together and talk because it's you.
Well, before I think it was on air. I just have to remember if it was on air or not. Mark and I were talking about Stephen King and how all of his novels and stories and everything he does is linked in some way. And obviously, I should remember who, but someone compared you quite favourably to Joe Hill not too long ago. So
Yeah, it was F. Paul Wilson that did that. That was
yes,
nice.
which is it's nice. It's rather special being compared to the son of Stephen King, who's a very good author in his own right. But
I kind of died a little bit in joy. All right, I'll be honest. Okay, there, yeah.
I don't. I mean, obviously, from a reader's point of view, there is a loose, at least, connection between a lot of the stories you write, or there could be a connection between all the stories you write. Have you seen that? Is that something you've done on purpose, or do you try and
You know,
separate them?
it's something that happens naturally. I know you've read the short story collection. There's a
Yeah.
story in there, called The Container of Sorrows,
Hmm.
and it's about a boy who kind of breathes his sorrows into a container, and they're taken from him. Okay, I'm just going to tell you this straight out. My very favorite thing I ever wrote is coming out in September.
Yeah, you've said this a couple of times, and I still don't know
It's
what it
coming
is.
out in September, and this is the origin story of that boy.
Okay.
The boy is one of the main characters in this thing that's coming out in September. And also, there's a girl that he loves in there that he's like, oh, I love this girl and she doesn't love me back, and that's his final sorrow. She's the main character in another one of my stories called Black Eyes Broken, about a girl that destroys everything she loves. And so that kind of ties in a little bit. And also, a book that I just finished writing that I'm actually going to start querying agents soon with it,
Yeah.
called Stormlight. And there's a story in Beautiful Sorrows about the quiet places where your body grows, and
yeah.
it's about girl. Yeah, you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
it's it's about a little girl that turned up in pieces and was murdered by this entity called the Handsome Butcher,
Hmm.
and those characters are in the book that I just finished. So I like to have them all to see different pieces and see. And I wrote a sequel to Black Mary that's coming out in a while, and just it's nice to see these characters. But this is my first actual trilogy where it's purposely
Yeah, they're
linked.
definitely going to link on. But do you think
Yeah.
you'll ever have Luna and either Lulu or Montessa meet each other?
I don't know. That would be really
I
interesting,
think
especially.
you should.
Oh yeah, especially since his dad calls him a demon, huh?
You see, and Lulu wasn't exactly. He could be there. He could be one of the houses.
Jay,
Yeah.
that is good.
And listen,
That is
I'm very cheap, 10%. But no,
okay.
it
I'm
does seem that you
thinking.
do kind of link everything together, which is it's organic, but it's also extremely interesting way to do it.
Thank you.
So
I
yes,
do like to see them cross over. I mean, I like that. I like to see, they have this story and then to be part of something larger that they're a minor character, and that's very intriguing to me. So it happens. I don't do it on purpose, but it happens,
mhm,
and I'm glad for that.
until Nameless, where you do have to do it on purpose. So
Yeah, well, that's just yeah.
so you've said you've got a couple of scenes for the sequel.
Yes.
Where is Luna heading next? Obviously, because oh no, we can't really. No, I was going to say how the book ended, but that wouldn't be very
Yeah,
good.
you can't say that.
No,
I
so we
I
can't
will
even say
say
where Luna's going next.
you won't even say this. I mean, this will give nothing away.
Okay.
Um, she heads to a dark place.
Yeah. Sorry, that's page one of the first book. That'll probably be page whatever of the third book, the last page.
She's still in a dark place. It is a book of darkness. I see her being pushed to her very limits.
Yeah.
And in the first book, I mean, she's pushed to limits, but I think I think I might break her. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
because she didn't quite break. She was very tough, but she was also very cocky, very
Yeah.
arrogant. And she didn't quite break. She thought she could handle everything in the first book. So are you going to
Yeah.
push her a bit harder?
I'm gonna rip the world out from under her.
But you do know you do once you've done the trilogy, you do have to do a spin-off series just about Mouth.
Oh my goodness. I'm getting people love Mouth. I love Mouth. But
Exactly.
people
Well,
love Mouth. There's a team Mouth that's already been created. Thanks Ryan Bridger for that.
yeah.
But like go team Mouth, and he's a likable character. He showed up completely randomly, like all my characters do, but he just showed up in one scene and just kind of took over a little bit,
Well, there's
didn't
definitely a
he?
prequel there. There's definitely a prequel, unless you're going to
Oh,
explore him more in the second and third book.
hmm.
Saying nothing.
I know, yeah. Hmm.
So we know that you're working on Nameless 2, which will remain
Yeah.
nameless for now. Um, but you've got a couple of new stuff coming out this year in September.
Yes. Yes, I do. I have a lot of things coming out this year. I'm working on two separate shared world series, which I'm really excited about. There's going to be a bunch of authors. One, we're going to be writing novellas in a shared world, and that will be coming out. And then in the other, we're going to be writing novelettes. So I'll be writing about two novelettes in this shared world with a different set of authors and stuff. And they're just amazing. I'm working on that. And a couple stories coming out in anthologies. And my favorite thing coming out in September,
Which you're not
which,
going to say, are you?
no,
Oh, I thought I could make you do it by accident, but it didn't work.
nope. But I am excited, Jay. It's what I actually queried my agent with.
hmm
And we had several traditional publishers looking at it, but it's just as most of my work tends to be, just a little too hard to market. They're like, this is really great, but this isn't, this doesn't fit in a box. This is like,
No.
because it's, a dark magical realism fairy tale with a high body count, horror novel with a lot of love, and a really interesting lyrical, the way it's written is very lyrical. So,
So do you think
y
that you've, I know you kind of not lucked into it, but with Ragnarok and and with Ken as well, with the kind of smaller indie publisher, is that good for you, do you think?
I think that's good for me. In fact, my agent and I we just parted ways, and that was difficult. But the advice he gave me was to try the smaller press. He says, you have more contacts there, and the smaller press is much more unafraid than the traditional big five.
Yeah.
They'll put out things that are, so that's what I'm doing. And it's been fantastic. And Ragnarok, I love, and Shock Totem, I love. So I couldn't have had better experiences with both of them. So, you know. Yeah, I lucked into it. Well, we can say that. That's fine.
I
They
don't
came
know.
along at just the right time, just a really good, the stars aligned nicely.
Yeah, and it might be luck, but I mean, obviously there's a ton of hard work behind the scenes,
Oh yeah. Oh
but
yeah.
right place in the
From
right time. And obviously, the good thing about the indie, yeah, you have to work harder, but like you said, the launch party, how much fun was that? And
it
the
was so,
street team, the amount of people you had kind of just out there trying to promote
oh
you,
my
get their
goodness.
news out, it's definitely worked.
It was fantastic. Do you mind telling them about the party a little bit?
Well, if I could, considering thanks to you keeping me up, and it started at 2 o'clock in the morning, um, yeah,
So maybe
it was a
maybe you saw it
virtual.
differently than I did because it was only like 5 o'clock here.
Well, as Melanie kind of noticed,